How do humans? Your brother Timothy here, and the Rediscover Human podcast with the main man Josh. How's it going?
Hey guys, yeah, all good this week.
Good man. I was out for a lovely walk yesterday in Wye Valley by Tintern Abbey, and a guy ran past me and said, "How do?" And I was like, "Oh, another northerner," you know, because I think that's just a northern thing. But it was nice to hear "How do" out there. And if you want to reply properly, you say "Now then."
I didn't realise it was a northern thing. I just thought it was you just made it up on the spot for this pod.
That's why I wanted to address it, because I think people might think that I'm just making it up, but it is a northern thing. It's like a tip of the cap when you cross someone on the trail. How do? You know, it's kind of like short for how do you do, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I was catching on. A mate of mine said it to me the other day. It's like, how do human?
How do human?
Rob, shout out Rob White.
Yeah, big up. So that's why I thought I'd just... Anyway, what a crazy week we've had.
Yeah.
It's been in the world of it. People seem to really like last week's episode, by the way. So thanks for all the good feedback. The feedback. We don't care whether it's good or bad. We just appreciate the feedback. But it's been nice to know that you resonated with the conversation.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it? It was less sort of structured last week in terms of, normally we come in with like a vague idea of what we're going to do.
Well, we hit the gyms, I think.
Yeah, but then we went off-piste, didn't we? And it seemed to be like that off-piste part of the conversation that everyone really resonated with.
Yeah. But we'll kind of come back on piste to start today, and then we'll see where it goes again. But there's two main subjects we can get into. That's the election and the vaccines. I think we'll start with the election. I know you tend to look at this stuff. When I came to yours on Saturday... Izzy, and I think you mentioned it, and then Izzy sent me the video and I watched it. People are quite upset with Trump, saying that he's, someone said he's thrown a Cartman kind of thing, and I see a lot of people are like, oh, he's just a sore loser. And I think this is really unfair, and it just shows the prejudice of people. Because if we are in a democracy, and if it was fair, which we all know it's not, and whatever, and even behind the scenes it's all the same, two heads of the same snake, whatever. But if it was a democracy, and it wasn't done fairly, then it should be carried out. There should be jurisdiction to make it done with justice.
Yeah.
So, but for people to just go, no, they just were so excited that the dislike of Trump has led them so excited to get him out that when he's saying actually he's still the president, and people are disrespecting him so much, and I just find that fascinating. So yeah, Izzy sent me the video, and it was the guy who'd helped create the system that was like a watermark with a kind of a bit.
Yeah, it was like invisible markings right on the ballots, so they're going to be able to accurately count if there are any fake ballots involved, because they're just going to be able to see if there's this invisible watermark thing. Some new technology like what we have in notes, I guess, but even more secretive. And so there's lots of, when you see that map that keeps coming up, and there's lots of places where there's like one or two recounts, and then there's like 4 or 5 where there's actual like lawsuits or something going down. And must have seen 3 or 4 different videos pop up, and I don't search for this stuff, it just appears in my feed or whatever, but at least 3 or 4 videos of people catching out, people counting. And Triss explained to me the way you're supposed to count in the past is someone sat in the middle counting, there's one from each party either side of them, they show both parties and they put it in the correct ballot. Whereas now there's not one from each party validating it, they're stood like 12 feet away, one person who's just watching them, and then so they can't even tell what they're putting in what, basically. I saw one account as well where they wouldn't let the person from the other party, so I think it was a Democratic state, so it was Democrats counting the votes, and then there's supposed to be Republican adjudicators there, right? Watching them count the vote and make sure it's all good. But they wouldn't let the Republican adjudicator in the room. They had to watch on a screen from outside of the room because it's in because of COVID and all this sort of stuff. What if what if this whole thing was COVID was all part of the regulations to get in place so that they could get the election? Because that's the power play. To become the POTUS, the President of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, is the ultimate goal for any, secret society. For anyone trying to have power over the world, that's what you want. So what if this all was building up? They said it in March, knowing that it would still be in place now, so that they could have these, like you're saying, implications in place where people have to watch through a screen and they can trick it. Yeah, well, a lot of, and again, we can go down the Q rabbit hole. I don't know what to think of all of that, to be honest. There's so much smoke and mirrors, but you know, like a lot of the Q pages were saying that the coronavirus and all the riots in the States and all this stuff going on was just basically the opposition making trouble for Trump while he was in power to derail him ahead of the election and get him out of power. And there's, you know, there was a lot of speculation around that. And again, there's probably some truth in that, some lies in that, and you know, it falls everywhere in between because there's literally so much smoke and mirrors. It's hard to know what's going on. Smoke and mirrors. But I think what's like evidently clear with what's happened with the election is, you know, it's you know, there's something fishy, right? There's something fishy going on. It doesn't seem legitimate.
It doesn't. And so, but so many people are so quick to jump on, and we're not here supporting Trump.
No,
we're not pro-Trump. We're not against Trump. We're just observing, trying to be neutral and observe, and having followed Trump. Like when Trump first got elected 4 years ago, I was very anti-Trump and shocked and disturbed by what the world was doing.
Yeah.
A few years in, I started to understand the perspective of people who just want their freedoms and protect their country. And I'm sure it appears as though Democrats are about freedom and stuff like that. But truly behind the scenes, once you watch documentaries like Out of Shadows, and you know, Pizzagate is something that people just shunned and they quickly threw it out. It's quickly like been debunked, whatever they want. And that truly like is some dark stuff that people need to actually look at neutrally. Yeah. Because it really looks as though it's a very, and that was all the blues, right? That was all Democrat. That was Hillary Clinton and the emails going around of them ordering children, is so it seemed, you know, in a.
It seemed like a, you know, a horror movie. Like it
totally seemed like a horror movie.
Outrageous that it couldn't be true, and I think a lot of people just wrote it off. And I'm not saying it is true, but what I think this has highlighted is that, and one of the good things about Trump getting into power, I think, is that he highlighted this idea of fake news, right?
Yeah,
and that you can't just trust what you're seeing on the TV, even if it's coming from a apparently reputable source, whether it's a major news channel or the World Health Organization or the Center for Disease Control, the CDC. You know, it's become abundantly clear that all these sources aren't just saying the truth all the time. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors there.
Well, even when Trump's tweeting, and his tweets are getting flagged saying this is false information, and you have to like click through to see the president of America's tweets. He's getting declassified, and then you see how much the media and the news are so much on the Democrats' side, and it's like it's amazing that people can't smell the coup. Like when something is really trying to, the thing is, the more connected to your soul, the more you start to become conscious when someone is trying to like sway you a certain way, and you can feel it a mile off. But I guess these people are just so like, oh, the news is telling me that, that's how it is. Oh yeah, we want Trump out, and it's so one-sided in its perspective.
And he's an easy character to dislike, right?
He's easy, but because on the surface he's very brash. But the thing is with Trump, I mean, we do, like we say, we don't know, but it seems as though at least you know what you get. Like he says, his heart's on his sleeve in a way. Whereas Biden is so. You know, I've shared the video on my Instagram, and if people haven't seen that, it's not there now. It was on my story, but the video, just search Joe Biden sniffing children. And the nefariousness of that character. And how easy it is. Oh, we can have a mixed race female. Is it who would?
Yeah, it's vice president.
It would be vice president, Kamala Harris would. And it's like, just because she's black and female, it doesn't mean that they represent blacks and women.
And I've seen footage of her years ago, hating on Biden.
Oh really? And now she's swung around because they just want to be on the winning team.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've seen a photo of her face made with apparently it's made with all these black inmates that she made them stay in prison for more time than they were actually due to stay in, because prison is a massive business. And so when these guys in power, I just think how much further. I mean, like you said, either of them. I don't trust either of them. Like honestly, at this point, it really would. I think I would cry with joy if we could just get Joe Rogan as president. You know, like, I know that might sound so ridiculous, but we can trust him. You know what I mean? You could actually trust that guy.
Well, it's like
who else?
I think so talking about Joe Rogan, I saw Jocko Willink on Joe Rogan. You know Jocko Willink? And he was saying about when there was all the riots going on as a result of the murders in the US, and he was saying like how Joe was like, how would you deal with this situation? He's like, the first thing I'd do is I'd get on a plane, fly down there, speak to the people on the ground, find out what's going on. And it's just like the thought of, feels like the president is so far removed. And I think that's in the UK as well, just going back to what we talked about last week with the gym stuff, right? When we released the podcast, the MPs were voting the following Wednesday to decide whether the gyms were going to stay open or not. They're supposed to be representative of the people. They are not representatives of the people.
How many of them go to a
They're
gym?
so disconnected from the general population. And I think this is the problem with the politicians in general, and like the system's fucked. The system's wrong. The fact that you've got this two-party system in the US where realistically your option is Donald Trump or Joe Biden, and when you think of who should be the leader of the
idiot, basically, not. I mean, that sounds
but that's one way of looking at it. And when you think about who should be the leader of the free world, it's like, right, what are the characteristics of that person? They're fair, they're loving, they're kind, they're selfless,
brave.
Great.
I don't see bravery in any of them.
Strong individual. All these characteristics. Could you say that either Biden and Trump display any of those characteristics?
I know. Give us Rogan, or give us their own country to go and move to. So that's one issue, and on that, actually, it's just interesting to observe how unfair people actually want to be. They're like, no, you're just throwing your toys at the pram. Like, you need to wake up. Or you need to just accept it. You're a sore loser. This is what I'm saying. And so on that point, I don't know if you've seen Deontay Wilder, because this seems to be a theme in the. I noticed the theme in.
I've seen a few thumbnails. I haven't watched anything though.
So he lost to Tyson Fury. Anyone that saw that fight saw it was a pretty one-sided, obvious fight. Now he's coming out saying someone poisoned his water, muscle relaxant or something. Tyson, his gloves were dodgy and he could take his hands out the ends or something like that. And he said he hit him with something the shape of an egg weight on the side of his head, and there's a dent in his head which looks pretty mad. And it's just I've not seen one person like actually going, hey guys, maybe we should like look at this. Everyone is just jumping on sore loser. Now, I don't. This is just an observation. I don't know how to say this, but it might sound offensive. But Tyson Fury is the Gypsy King. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, if anyone knew any trickery, to just give him a few more percentage to win a fight, it's the Gypsy King. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point.
And people aren't looking. And now he's a better boxer. Like, in no way it looks like he's the best boxer. Yeah. But it's not to say that at the finest level, to gain a few percentage, he said his nails dug into his ear to make his ear bleed, and you could see him pulling up his shorts, and he's saying you can't do that with gloves. So he reckons that he had like a hole behind the gloves so that he could, like, his mate could put something heavy in there, so when he hits him, there's like some heavy object that just knocks him down. I do think there must be many cases that have never been noticed of like people using muscle relaxants in the waters, and because I've noticed it in UFC, they're just drinking out of plastic bottles of water that from the casino or the hotel that it's in. It's just say like Mandalay Bay water, and they're just like sipping from that, and you're like, how have they not got like? Why do people still not drink out of glass?
Yeah, I know, that's crazy.
Bring their own water, their own distiller in the thing.
Well, I think it's that idea, right, of just critically thinking from both sides. So
that's what I'm saying. What was your perspective on it? You just saw the mainstream narrative.
Of what? Are we talking of Tyson?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I watched the fight, and obviously, like you said, it looked very one-sided. And then I saw a clip ages ago when Wilder was on Rogan saying about how the suit weighed him down, and it like tired him out before he got to the ring, which I was just like, well, that you're a professional, that's your responsibility, right? If you want to walk out in that suit, you probably should wear it before and check if it's going to do that sort of thing.
Totally.
But then I haven't watched any of this other stuff about the gloves and blah blah blah, and yeah, like you say, it's worth looking into. Just like with all the presidential election stuff, I feel like people generally, and this is a massive generalization, but you've got Q people on one side that are so determined to see that Biden's a paedophile and all the stuff that's happening with Hunter Biden's laptop and Ukraine, and we can go into all the specifics, but they're so on that side. And then you've got people on the other side that are like, absolutely hate Trump and probably haven't even looked into Biden or his policies, but just hate Trump so much that they want to vote Biden in. And it seems like there's a lack of people are willing to look at both sides critically. And I think if you do look at both sides critically, what you realize is that the system needs to be changed. But then it's like, then practically how does that happen? That's a very, very complicated issue.
Tackle that, we're just sort of living what we're in. So I just wanted to bring that up because I see people are so quick to call people sore losers these days without actually going, hang on a minute, let's actually just listen to this person. We respected them a lot at one point. They're the president. They were the former heavyweight champion. And now they're speaking. You don't want to listen because they've lost. And it's like, how quick are people to only follow winners and not actually listen to other people like they've not got a valid perspective?
Well, you see it in the UFC all the time, right? The champions, like Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor was so many people's hero. Now he's dropped by the wayside.
Tony Ferguson losing to Gaethje.
I know, and people just forget about it.
Yeah, people took so much sparkle out.
What was I going to say? So on that, just to round up on the presidential election, the official position at the moment is that Trump isn't conceding. So what usually happens is when one president wins the election, if it's change of hands, then it doesn't officially change over till January of the following year. But what usually happens is the president that's in office concedes to the new president, and it's like a gentlemanly thing to kind of step aside. But Trump isn't doing that. And what's also still happening is that votes are still being counted in some places. And then Trump's also put lawsuits out on certain ballots in certain states because of the type of stuff we're talking about with the potentially dodgy vote counting. So effectively we're sat in this no man's land where it hasn't actually been confirmed who's going to be the next president of the United States, or if Donald Trump's going to stay in office. But the media, the mass media, apart from the only major media outlet that I've seen come out and say this is Sky News Australia. Every other news outlet is saying that Biden's the president of the United States now, which hasn't been confirmed. So am I right in thinking that's the sort of official state of affairs?
It's definitely not confirmed, but everyone's already trying to embrace it and celebrate it. And I've seen plenty of people celebrating it. It's definitely not happened. And that he has to get 272 to be whoever gets first to 270 or whatever it is, something like that. He's president. And I've seen one this morning that was an updated version, and Trump had more than Biden.
Really? And
I don't know how official that was, but it's very interesting times.
That's the thing as well. So I watched a video yesterday of a woman called Naomi Wolf, who was I can't remember. She was a senior advisor, some major role to Bill Clinton and Al Gore. And she was speaking at some sort of conference, and someone asked her a question about the Boston bombings. And she goes
Which was so shady, man.
10 minutes. So I don't know much about that.
I just remember looking into it, and I looked at the kid's Twitter that supposedly did it. And, it doesn't give you, you can't make a judgment off of it, but it definitely, you can't make a judgment, but definitely, that's, I'm a bit twisting myself there, but it just didn't seem like this kid's going to suddenly try and blow up a marathon. Okay. Do you know what I mean? You're looking at the kid's posts, and it's like, where does this, Anyway, that goes into...
that's another
the devil's
hole.
Breath drug and the CIA. And
right, all of that.
In my head.
Interesting.
That the devil's breath drug.
I've heard
the
of
Vice did a documentary on where you can blow in someone's face and then suddenly they're under your control. And that is from Colombia, and then suddenly the last cases in America was in the 60s, and then it's never been used since. And you're like, well, if this exists, the government or these secret services are definitely using it. Anyway.
So she talks about, she goes into basically that a law was passed. And so this is kind of 2 points. So I'll go what she talks about first. So she says that it was a law that was passed, which was like an amendment to an already existing law, which made basically the media propagandizing things, if that's a word, legal. So it's kind of legal for the media to put stuff out there now.
Oh, it changed it.
They changed the laws.
What?
And then I was like, oh, God, that seems like that it shouldn't be a law
in the news.
So I then started trying to look into it. So I confirmed the woman was who they said the woman was in the video by looking at some images on Google, and then I looked up the law, and then I got presented this document with loads of bullet points, and it's basically, you have to kind of pick through it with a fine tooth comb, and I ended up like giving up on it and just thinking I can't confirm or deny whether this is true. But that's just representative of like what's going on at the moment in terms of like see something on the main news, you see something on YouTube, you see that post that you were talking about this morning of the states and showing Trump's ahead, and it's so hard to go, is this true? Like, how do I verify this? Is the source I'm verifying with this true? Because when they talk about, it was one of the documentaries, whether it was Out of Shadows or one of them, where they talk about how, no, it's the Plandemic documentary. They talk about like how things are verified. So people see something on the news, like, here's the coronavirus death statistics, and then they see that that same thing in the newspaper, and then they Google coronavirus, and then the top 3 articles say the same thing, and then they see, I don't know, a PM or the Prime Minister or MP or someone like Piers Morgan tweet it, and then in their mind they've seen this bit of information 6 times, and they're like, right, that's a fact, but then ultimately it's just come from one source. And then what she talks about is like journalism is like bread and butter of journalism is that you verify what you're talking about.
Oh, it's just not journalism anymore, is it? Yeah.
But people are verifying fake news with more fake news. And it's just so hard to know what's right and what's wrong. It's
even
minefield.
that interview of the guy who said he worked with Trump to create the ballot, to create the watermark in the thing, that was on Alex Jones, and you're listening to it and you're like, is this true? Could this come to fruition? It seems so legit, and then you just never know what comes down the line. But there was something about that, and he talked about, I just found it fascinating. He said Trump knows the art of war. He knows how to draw his enemies kind of out so that he gives them a false hand. He draws his enemies out. They play all their hand, and then I think he might have caught the blue hand in the cookie jar. But we'll see. But that was. It's such an important topic to discuss, and so bringing it close to this country and what I saw several people claim is the best news we've had all year and stuff, vaccines. Apparently they've got a vaccine that is 90%.
90%, yeah. And apparently
but your immune system's 99%. Why do I need something that's 90% when I've got a 99.7%?
I know, man. I know, it's great. The vaccine stuff is, like, I feel a bit more passionate about, because
I'm more worried about it, if that's on it, to be honest.
It's potentially scary, right? Because the scientific consensus is that vaccines are safe, but then you look at all the anecdotal evidence, and there's people, thousands of people that claim vaccines have given their children autism, and all sorts of it have caused all sorts of issues, and then there's questionable ingredients like mercury and stuff like that in these things.
Apparently, if you call up a chemist and you ask for the ingredients that are in a vaccine, like you get an ingredients list of a vaccine, call up a chemist and ask for the ingredients, and they're like, what do you want that for? And you say, I'm gonna eat it, or I'm gonna put it in my body or something. They're like, what the heck? Like, it's the most ridiculous thing. Like, what are you doing? No, of course I'm not going to give you that ingredients to put it ingest in your body. Like, they put it in vaccines. They inject it into us. Needles are so unnatural. So many people have a natural fear of needles as well.
Well, I looked at this yesterday. There's a documentary called Vaxxed. VAXXED, and it was funded by Robert De Niro, because I
didn't know that.
It's funded by Robert De Niro because his son had a vaccine. And I watched him talk about it yesterday in preparation for today, and he says he's not sure, but his wife swears that the child changed overnight. His I think it's his son has got autism, and his wife swears that he had the vaccine and then he just changed overnight. And he said he's not sure about it, but he funded this documentary just to give people an alternate perspective on vaccines. And this is, like with absolutely everything we talk about, we're just highlighting to people, look, there is another side to the story. We're not telling you vaccines are bad. We're saying, look, this is what the mainstream media say. This is what mainstream science says. There is some other science. There's some evidence saying the opposite. Go and have a look at that as well, and then make up your own mind. It's
Yeah, people often get message whenever I mention vaccines that it's dangerous that I use my influence to be anti-vax, basically, and it's like we're not. If by default it makes me anti-vax, I'm just so pro-human and pro-truth and pro-health.
Yeah,
that vax is just not a part of that for a healthy human. Our bodies are made to be in harmony with our environment, and we're able to take on thousands and millions and billions of like toxic particles and things. Our body can clean really well, and parasites and everything that can exist. And this pure mass panic that they cause so I seen a post earlier, and it was just saying how they create the fear, and then they come in like the savior. Do you know what I mean? So then you give, these guys are going to say, they're going to look after us. Look, the government are serving us, you know. So it's, they have found the vaccine, and the amount of money that goes into it. It's like the death, like how much do we need to say? The death rate, age of death is older than the average age of death. Yeah. And yet we're going to go through, and who are the first people to get the vaccine? They say the police, the police and the army are like the first people like in line that have to all get them. What if it is some total, because, and we can go into this a bit later, but we'll talk about true healing comes through, you know, feeling your true emotions and releasing in that sense. It's just more numbing. Yeah. What if the vaccine is just to do with numbing us from our emotions even more? Like there's something, just to look at it from, if there are overlords that are trying to control and take more power, and they're trying to use this as a Trojan horse, what could it be? And I think that would be the biggest problem, is if they use anything to numb us and remove us from, you know, kind of antidepressant style thing, but like a permanent,
There was a quote by Rudolf Steiner. So Rudolf Steiner is like a polymath. He created biodynamic farming. He created his own schooling system.
Yeah,
he's kind of like Paul Chek's role model, I guess.
Is he British? It was in Britain. I don't know if he was.
I'm not sure if he's British, to be honest. Yeah. But he said this quote, and you can look it up. Just type in Rudolf Steiner vaccines. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he said, you know, years and years ago, maybe in the 20s or 30s, something like that there would be a vaccine in the future that would attempt to eradicate spirituality from the human soul.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it's crazy when you talk about what you're talking about there. It just reminded me that. So,
if there ever was a time that they're doing it, this is the one. And it's like, how do people not smell how eerie, or like, maybe smell's not the right sense for it, but it's so eerie. The whole thing is just some crazy big coup. And because people have watched movies of similar vein, it's all tied in, isn't it? The hypernormalization of stuff. It's like they think they wouldn't actually do it when they are doing it.
Yeah.
It's so insane.
Yeah. Well, we sent around that movie trailer the other day. They've created a coronavirus movie,
COVID-23 or something.
Yeah, where it's just showing like a complete lockdown civilization and people getting dragged out of their homes if they contracted it.
How tasteless is it?
Yeah.
How that they will capitalize. They will not only be the ones fear-mongering, then they will also like allow people to go to a studio to film. Like, is that essential? Like when they're saying, you know, we can't go to the gym, but they're still allowed to shoot TV shows, and movies and
stuff. Raise the level of fear and
raise level of fear.
That's neurochemistry 101, right? When we're in a fear state as a human being, you stop using your prefrontal cortex. You go back to more of a reptilian brain thought, where you're using your like brain stem and the more primitive parts of your brain.
Yeah,
and your prefrontal cortex, that's what you use for rational thinking. So that gets shut off because you're in a fear state, and now you're acting, you know, out of a immature section of your brain. And
rational.
People understand this. They, you know, these people understand this, and they want you in that state so they can, because you're more easily manipulated as a human being when you're in that state.
Yeah. I think it was. You said when we first talked about when COVID started kicking off in the beginning, and I said, what if they bring in a vaccine? What are you going to do? And you were like, they're going to have to, I think you said they're going to have to pin me down or something.
Yeah, I wouldn't. There's no way. And that's my decision. And everyone's got to make their own decision, but there's no way I'm taking the vaccine.
There's no way. I will give up the right to travel. I seen Piers Morgan's tweet. He said, I will get the vaccine on TV and you guys have to give up. You guys have to give up the right to fly. And what else did he say?
Sporting events. Was it sporting events?
Was it sporting events? Something else he said with the flight. And then you've just brought it to my attention about the thing that Ticketmaster, potentially, we don't know this is confirmed.
Yeah, it's unconfirmed. Yeah, there's just chat about it at the moment that events like sporting events and music events and I'm guessing concerts and festivals and all these sort of things, there's talk of that you need to have either a COVID test before you go and prove yourself negative for COVID, or you need to show that you're vaccinated for COVID before you can go to these events. And it's going to be monetized, obviously. You know, the pharmaceutical industry are creating these tests, so you're paying for the test, and then there's the interface of getting the test. You know, what extra payment walls are they going to be put in place to get through that? So it seems to me that, you know, it's kind of a money making scheme at a certain level. And one of the other things I find like suspicious is the fact that they've come up with a 90% effective vaccine. What was it? How many days after the election? How many days?
Oh yeah, literally.
After they've announced Biden as president?
Within a week, yeah.
It's bonkers, man. And so on the vaccine as well.
That timing is way too suspicious.
Yeah, it seems bizarre, isn't it? And no one's even speaking about that.
I know, that's a great point, brother.
Another thing, so I looked at the vaccines yesterday. Apparently, a vaccine on average takes 10 to 15 years to develop.
That's what I heard, yeah.
The pre-trial stage, where they do like research and development and then animal testing, can take 3 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Just that stage. Then it goes into what they call like human trials level 1.
Yeah.
At that point. So 3 to 6 years. How long does it take them to develop this vaccine? Under a year?
Less than a year, yeah. 9 months.
And then when you've got all this evidence of people having issues with vaccine in the past, whether it's causing autism or, you know, any other number of injuries. So the jury is out, in my mind, on how safe and effective vaccines are.
Yeah.
When they're taking 15 years to develop them.
Yeah, I'm not going to take that risk.
I'm not taking that risk either.
Yeah.
Never mind if they're taking a year to develop it. So I think we just need to look at it a bit deeper, and people need to start asking questions before they rush out and get this. And if you're thinking, I'm going to get it just because I want to go on holiday, or I'm going to get it just because, you know, I love going watching the football every Saturday, you know, there could be major, like, serious implications to you, your children. So it's just it's worth seriously considering before you rush out and get it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's worrying times, but that does bring me to trying to look at this from another perspective. And so I'm sure we'll do a podcast more specifically on the subject another time, but one thing that's come into my attention lately is a broader perspective of the law of attraction. So I think most people are aware of the law of attraction. Like, people use what you think about is what you kind of get. And anyone who's done a bit of digging deeper, who's done any experimentation with the law of attraction, knows it goes much further than, you can't just think about something, it's the emotion attached to the thought. So if your thought is, I want to be rich, but your emotion is, it knows that you're not rich. Your emotion is sad. Your emotion knows the truth, right?
Yep.
So if your emotion isn't aligned with the thought, then that's kind of like someone described it as the magnet. The thought is the direction and the emotion is the magnet, whether it pulls or pushes that thought to or from you. And so most people look at the law of attraction in trying to things they desire or they want. But what we're unaware of, the law of attraction doesn't have a bias to positivity or negativity in your life. And so what I'm coming to learn, and what I'm actually really observing, and I think most people can observe in their life, is it's bringing about scenarios in your life frequently for you to feel an emotion. And so, as you gave the example earlier, the girl who says, I always get dickhead boyfriends, whatever was the quote you said. Or you get caught up in traffic every day or every week or something, and then you beep your horn and you get angry back. And so the law of attraction is bringing about these events for a reason, for you to feel an emotion. But it's not the angry emotion, or it's not the blame the guy emotion. There's a deeper emotion that at some point in our life we protected ourselves because of the pain of feeling the real emotion. which might be, I feel worthless, I feel unloved, I feel misunderstood or something. There's a true emotion behind it that we, at some point, as we talked about the facade self last time, covered up with a mask emotion to project and blame others for us to feel it this way, rather than actually just like a child at a certain stage, at most stage, that a child will just stop everything they're doing when they feel an emotion, and they feel the emotion. And then once it's released, they don't dwell on it. They don't the next day go, oh, yesterday you did that to me. They've moved on from it.
Yeah.
And so at some point in our childhood, either a parent stopped us, or at school, and we didn't want to be seen as weak, so we didn't cry in the moment, or we just fought, like angrily fought back or something, and that stopped. That made that emotion store in us. And so when that emotion stores in us, that's what starts to allow illness, sickness, disease, injuries start to be able to come in. Dis-ease, because of the stored emotion that is trapped in our body that we're not truly feeling. So the law of attraction, in a loving way, is bringing you about these scenarios so that you can feel what you're meant to feel. But because of our facade, we've then covered up the true emotion with another emotion. So it might be anger, it might be frustration. So what we have to do then is trace the emotion to the root. So if you're feeling angry and you want to punch someone, if you get a punching bag or a Bob doll, or go into your bedroom and you start punching the sofa or the bed or the pillow in that moment, and you really let it out and feel that emotion, that you'll be able to trace that to the next emotion, and you might start crying. That punching and fighting and anger, you might suddenly break down in tears and collapse on the bed crying. Speaking from experience. And so the emotion of the anger is there for then you not to then beat the person up that's doing the thing, but for you to try and trace to the root emotion. Now, you don't have to punch the thing to know that you're sad, but inside there might be sadness or grief or something that you're covering up. Now, how that relates to this, what is going on in the world right now, from a more like trying to be balanced and less us versus them perspective, which I'm trying to work on. It's one thing to intellectually understand that, because we're spiritual, right? We're into namaste and we are one and all is self and that, which you know, anyone on the kind of on the spiritual path, they get these things, but to actually feel it emotionally is another thing, because as soon as someone says they want to shove a needle in my ass, I want to fight. Do you know what I mean? As soon as so as that pertains to this, is all of this coming about? Is the vaccines, is the election, is the Trump-Biden debate on our Instagram socials, is people that you respected and now they're like one-sided or something like that? Is someone you make a post and then someone challenges you? Is that all coming about for us to just feel an emotion that is stored in us that we don't want to feel? And if we're able to actually feel it, will this all melt away? You know, like, who knows? You know, the power of the human soul, the power of will, right? This is just an experiment for people to just start to intellectually think about, but if you can go beyond that and start to feel it and start to emotionally comprehend this, then we can get the true experiment going. And so the other night I was watching, there was the Million Mask March
in London.
And they teamed up with, I think, Stand Up X, so there was a lot more people than usual. And there was it's crazy the live streams you can watch right now of these marches. And I was watching a live stream, I think it was RP Ripley and Subject Access, and they were really quality live streams. And it was so eerie to just be watching that screen there and to see all these police like with their masks and to see all these humans and it was great to see the variety of humans. It wasn't just kind of like the misfits and outcasts. There was people of all like walks of life were there marching against the new COVID rules basically that were coming into play. And it was the first day that we talked about dates, right after the election, then they put this. So they announced lockdown on Halloween. The first day of lockdown was Guy Fawkes Night, which is the anniversary of Guy Fawkes trying to blow up Parliament.
And if anyone hasn't seen the film V for Vendetta, now's a good time to watch that.
Absolutely go and watch that film. But Guy Fawkes was someone maybe not too dissimilar, for having emotions not too dissimilar from what we're all feeling about the government and Parliament and the rule of those classes over us. And so what an ultimate like poke in the face that they on the first day of, you know, on the Guy Fawkes night, on the celebration or the not celebration, was that was either the night he tried to blow up Parliament or the night they burned him. Did they burn him at the stake?
I'm not sure.
I think that's what bonfires come from, right?
Yeah, potentially.
Yeah.
I'm not sure,
I have to clear my history on knowing that a bit deeper, but essentially that was Guy Fawkes night. And so I'm watching, and the police are one by one picking off people from the crowd marching with V for Vendetta masks on, with the anonymous masks as they're now known, and they're just dragging them to the ground. They'd form a circle around the person, so there'd be like 2 or 3 police would get the person, then like 6 or 7 would form a circle around to protect the person while they put them in handcuffs, and then they'd stand them up and march them off. And so it was really tactical from the police and malicious. And then they kettled in. It got to a point where they kettled in from both sides, so it's where there's a dead end or like they blocked. It was on Oxford Street, and they'd have a row of police on one side, a row of police on the other, and they'd all link arms and march, and they'd narrowly like create this like fish tank of all these people that were trapped then. And I was watching it, and they were chanting, they were singing. There was one woman was like announcing, like presenting, like loudly, just like saying, like, we need to be loving people. Like, and then they're like, these guys want to fight, they want violence, don't give it them. But it was still very aggressive. It was like she's speaking a lot of truth lovingly, but I could tell her emotions, she's very aggressive. And that's what I'm starting to discern, the difference between an intellectual knowledge of like we should be loving and actually emotionally someone who's actually loving. There is a very big difference. And so I was watching it and it was like an hour, and it's slowly, and I slowly realized they're picking off people from the crowd one by one. They were targeting them, taking them, arresting them. And so eventually this crowd of about, you know, maybe 150, 200 people was slowly getting dwindled down as they were just arresting each and every one of them, making an example of them, kind of one by one arresting them. And it was so tactical and horrible. And just to see these, you know, faceless police acting out against, you know, they're just so unaware that the people they're serving are, you know, when there's that many numbers of people that are saying something's up, they need to really start to listen to the people. And I'm hoping that there's some policeman in a higher position that is actually like, hang on a second, maybe we aren't serving the greater good here.
Hopefully,
but that's why I say when I see that happening. So my whole experiment of that was to sit here and watch that. And normally I'd go, this is negative. You know, I shouldn't be absorbing this. This is damaging to me to absorb it. It's better that I just don't think about that world and I just put on some music and do some Sudokus or whatever. And actually I was like, you know what? Powerlessness is an emotion that I think that's the reason we're fighting here, is we don't want to be powerless. We don't want it for our children, of course, but ourselves. Like, I feel a certain powerlessness. Yeah. Like if they were to just march in here now, the police knock on the door and just arrest us, we're powerless. We totally are in the physical aspect, apart from, you know, understanding that death isn't the end, and you can just and that there's a spirit world, you know, however you want to do it. This is just the physical body, right? And so your power is another sense, but in the physical, and the more we're connected to the physical, the more they have power over us in that way. But so I was just sitting here and letting the emotion wash over me of powerlessness, and occasionally I'd like some sob would come up, or it wasn't like bawling, but it was just like there was an emotion there. And so rather than be angry at the police, I was trying to just feel the emotion that it made come up in me. So that was just an experiment, and that's something that I'm trying to dwell on more now. When someone angrily or responds to something I put online, rather than reply, because, you know, there's that emotion, that aggressive response that we want to get to. They don't see my perspective. They obviously haven't thought about this. Is just to feel, what is that making me feel? Do I feel misunderstood? Do I feel untrusted? You know, and just experimenting with feeling it, rather than this resistance, because resistance is you're not going to get there with resistance.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. So I watched that same live stream you were talking about, and there was more people in the crowd on the point of the quality of the video being good. There's more people in the crowd with like cameras, good quality cameras than there weren't. But
because they all say they're media, so they get away with it.
Yeah, well, I think that, and that's the thing. That's the world we live in now, right? There's so many people that are starting, which is a cool sort of side note, starting to do stuff like that for a job and blah blah blah. But what struck me about that, when the police were singling out the people, like you said, there was a lot of aggression, and it was like, it didn't seem like the police were there with like, you know, a loving intention of, you know, these people are putting other people in danger because of COVID, or, you know, it didn't seem like they were, it seemed like a very egoic, like, I'm the police, you're not the police, you're not supposed to be here because that's the law, so we're going to, you know, take you down. And it felt very much like that. And, you know, to your point, I completely agree, like with, you know, a lot of people need to start looking, and this is something that I need to do more of, and just starting to sit with my emotions and doing that own emotional work on yourself. Because I think you're right. Like, if everyone started taking personal responsibility for doing that, a lot of these greater issues would start to dissolve.
Our law of attraction is bringing it about.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to grow up, maybe or evolve, or not devolve, but grow down. Like, be like the child. Like the child will just feel it and then move on. And so my whole last month and going forward into 2021 is to try and get the skill back of feeling the emotion and the true emotion in the moment.
Yeah. And I think when you are doing that work on yourself, you're in a lot less sort of us versus them state. Yeah. Because that is one of the overriding themes at the moment, whether it's mask versus non-masked, vaccine versus non-vaccine, Trump versus Biden. There's a lot of division in the world at the moment. And ultimately, what do people want? They want the best for their families and for the world at large. They want people to be happy, and they want other people to be healthy, and they want themselves to be happy and healthy. But yet everyone seems to be pitted against each other, and
an eye for an eye is not the solution.
Yeah, it's not the solution.
Yeah, and trying to be loving is a challenge, but because you can still be stern and be loving. Do you know what I mean? You can still be like, no, this is how it is. I'm not wearing a mask. You can wear it. That's okay. You do you.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing it. And it has helped me come to more terms with that, with whether my resistance of the mask was we should just surrender. And I explained this earlier. Like, should we have just surrendered to it, or no? Like, it is not loving to myself to not live in alignment with what I know to be true, right? So for me to wear the mask would be to not live in it. It would just be conforming for someone else, and that's not my free will, and that's not harmony with my soul. So it gave me more surety on that. And and then to a point where it's like, yeah, if you get arrested for it, you just take that, and then you sit in prison and read the Bible or the Quran, or you just do that, but not getting vaccine.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I think, like,
to bring it back to that point.
I worry as well with the vaccine for, like, how far, if it does go that way, in terms of, you can't go to a sporting event, you can't go to you can't get on a flight,
we'll deal with the emotions of not having that anymore in my life. Like, I'm actually cool with all of that. Yeah. If I never go to a concert again, like, I'm okay with that. But for some people that will be a harder emotion for them to have to face.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the problem is, I think where a lot of people at, like we speak, John, I was speaking to him the other day, and he loves traveling. He absolutely lives for it. Yeah. And he said he's going to really struggle with that if they decide that, he can't fly because of the vaccine. And I don't know which way he'd sway on it, but, I know he doesn't want to get one, but I think he would definitely consider getting one, at least to some extent, if there was that travel. Yeah. And how many people would that tip over the line? And with it kind of being like...
It's a fishing hook, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, how many people can we tip with sporting events? How many can we tip with traveling abroad? And if that isn't enough, okay, now do we have to start making it part of, you can't go to work unless you've got one.
You can't get on the public transport.
Exactly. And it's like, how many people can, just change? Like, we know some professional athletes.
Yeah, I feel for them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And they, obviously they do what they do. They love doing what they do. They're very lucky people to be able to, to go and do that. But what if they get told, oh, you can't keep competing?
I wonder if that's I pray, well, everyone's got their free will, right? But I pray that's the line for some athletes, because I think athletes have had to go along with the masks. And I think some of them must have not liked it, but it's their bit. Like, if I was a professional athlete, like in football, and you were like, no, I'm not wearing a mask, it's like, and there wasn't a way around it, You're not just going to quit when you're making that much money a week, right? You're going to just wear the bloody mask.
Yeah, you love doing what you do,
you love doing
right?
what you do, right? But if the vaccine comes in, I think there are athletes that are a bit more woke that are going, you know what, I'll do this, but I'm not having that put in me.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if that is going to be the line for some people.
But then what does, say, so for example, let's pick out an athlete who's got a family. He's got 3 kids.
Yeah.
He's got a wife that potentially doesn't work because, they're lucky enough because they earn so much because of... And then all of a sudden, you're not just making that decision for yourself, right? I'm not going to take a vaccine and I'm going to finish playing football or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm happy to do that for me.
Yeah.
But then what am I going to do for my family? And, a lot of professional athletes, not so much in rugby, a lot of rugby players go to university, but a lot of footballers will get plucked out of school at 16.
Yeah.
And then they'll just be a footballer the rest of their life. And to be fair, like high level footballers probably earn enough money for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
But there will be a lot of difficult decisions people will have to make. So it's like, when do we... That might be the point at which people go, okay, this is the decision point, but should we be acting before it even gets to that point?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. But like we say, if we give up travel, we give up concerts, we'll end up living that ancestral life, bro.
Yeah.
We'll get a bit of land and we'll just like live on a farm and take care of ourselves and deal with it in that sense. So what I actually want to do is I would love to chat some UFC.
Okay.
But what we'll do is we'll just give our links now.
Yeah.
Because then if people don't want to listen to UFC, they can duck out. So thanks for everyone that's tuned in. That was a bit of an anticlimactic cut off, but we'll get better at closing. But yeah, what you got for us? We've been sipping some mushroom tea, but you're out now? I'm
out of Lion's Mane. It's going to go on pre-order today. If anyone wants to pre-order it, I should have it back in stock within the next couple of weeks. But APE_Nutrition is my Instagram. If you've got any questions, it's best to direct message me on there. Website is apenutrition.co.uk. We've got keto bars, MCT oil, not at the moment Lion's Mane, but we will have Lion's Mane soon, cordyceps mushrooms, CBD oil, and some t-shirts. Cool.
Yeah, mine's wayoftherope.co.uk or humantimothy.co.uk. Discount code, all caps lock, rediscover. Thank you to everyone. The ropes was crazy last week. I had a crazy week of cutting ropes, and I've managed to get some. It did just sell out yesterday, and then I've managed to get some back in stock right away. But we'll have a Black Friday discount coming. Have you got plans for that coming up?
Yeah, potentially. We got a big marketing level up going on at the moment, which I'll speak to you about. Yeah, off cam.
We'll come to that anyway. But yeah, the ropes. If you want any of that stuff, is there. My Instagram is @humantimothy or @wayoftherope. But now for some fight chat.
Yeah.
Teixeira.
Well, first, because it's been on my mind. I've wanted to ask you this for a while. Is what happens now? Khabib is Khabib vacating the title?
No.
You think he's going to keep it?
I think he's going to have one more fight.
I'm so excited by that idea of an 8-man tournament.
Oh, that would be amazing.
8-man tournament. So they could play it out. I saw it was
Oliveira and Felder. No, and Hooker, are down there.
Oliveira, Hooker,
Chandler, Ferguson, Gaethje, Conor, Poirier, who's 8. No, he's the champion.
Tony? Have we said Tony?
Tony, no. Yeah, okay.
8-man tournament. How ridiculous would that be?
Yeah, it would be insane.
They plan it out over, a year and a half, and I don't know how that you could do it, like knockouts or whatever. But it'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think they will, but that would be. But I'm with you on that. Even just a 4-man tournament would be great.
Anyone could win that. You know how UFC works, styles make. I saw Dan Hardy saying that he thinks that. What was it? It was some weird combination. He said he thinks that Conor would beat Gaethje, but Tony would beat Conor.
Yeah.
So there's so many different ways you can chop and change that.
But they've announced Poirier Conor.
Yeah, January 23rd.
23rd, yeah. So
awesome.
Definitely looking forward to the January feels. I always feel like November, December energy is very compressed and heavy, and then come January, it always the year opens up. You're inspired, you're motivated again. You got all these ideas of the world. So come January 23rd, it could be Conor's season. Didn't happen this year, but maybe next year.
He looks like I've been following his stuff on Instagram. He looks like he's training hard, and he's got his head back on, screwed back on. Hopefully, man, because when he is in that state, he's just amazing to watch, and and hopefully by then as well. God knows what's going to happen, but everything will have opened up so they can do the press conferences, and because that's part of Conor's arsenal, right?
Especially because him and Poirier did one before. It'd be interesting to see the contrast of how Poirier has changed.
Yeah.
And if he really has changed, if Conor can get it out of him.
Get under his skin.
But yeah, to last weekend's, because Teixeira Santos, I was actually excited for that fight.
I haven't watched it.
You haven't watched it? It's a back and forth.
Really?
It's a back and forth. Teixeira eventually gets the win, I think third round rear naked choke or second round. And that puts his name in the hat because you've got Izzy Blachowicz. They're talking about that.
Yeah.
But it's hard to Teixeira's 41 now, doing amazing work at 41. But what do you do? Because I think Teixeira would beat Izzy. And I think Izzy beats John Jones. I think Izzy beats...
John?
I do think he beats John. And I think he beats Blachowicz. But I think Teixeira is just an absolute mauler. He's like a Khabib, like a bigger Khabib.
Yeah.
And I think that would be so interesting. And I don't think Izzy would take that fight for any means. Because he doesn't have to. Teixeira's not a name. He's not the belt holder. But if Teixeira and Blachowicz did their fight before Izzy got there, then Teixeira was the belt holder. I think that's so dangerous for Izzy.
How serious is that about Izzy going up 2 weight classes to fight?
I think he'll do it.
He's going to do it.
No, 1 weight to Blachowicz.
Light heavyweight, sorry. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But that's 20 pounds, isn't it? And then he's talking about heavyweight because he fought kickboxing at heavyweight before. So he's fought at heavyweight before.
Yeah.
It would just be the ultimate if he went up to light heavyweight, took the belt, and then forced John Jones to either come back down, or John Jones hasn't even gone up. Everyone's saying he's gone up. He's not actually. The moment he books a fight, I'll say he's gone up, but he's not actually gone anywhere yet. Yeah. So he could still. He's still hovering.
It's a shame, man. It'd be nice to see him fight because the last couple of fights he's had, he's been like he doesn't feel like he was his old self. You know what I mean? So it'd be interesting to see. It would be nice to see him come back and be his old dominant self and like put on a real performance.
Yeah.
And then set up a fight potentially between him and Izzy because obviously Izzy's like in its prime. He's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to watch.
It would. But Santos did great. That was the thing. I thought Santos has got a win over Yan. And he was winning at points in the fight against Teixeira. So it's like that division, actually, you've got a few bangers at the top.
Yeah.
And then Jones and Izzy playing around as well.
What always happens, isn't it? I think this is what happened if Khabib steps away, whether it's this fight or next fight, it kind of creates a vacuum and then like people come through.
Yeah. It will be. It's a good question of will he drop the belt or not? Because I think he will get to 30-0, but he could drop the belt and then come back and regain it. Or he can keep the belt and then fight.
Well, what about this, right? He drops the belt.
Yeah.
8-man tournament.
Yeah.
Year and a half's time.
I think 4-man's more realistic.
Okay, 4-man tournament.
Yeah.
Year's time or year and a half's time, someone's crowned king.
Yeah.
And then Khabib comes back for the 30-0 fight to fight whoever the champion is.
Add this, Khabib chooses the 4-man tournament and who fights who.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Do you know what I mean? Imagine he chose
I like the idea of, like when they do the football, they pull the balls out. They're like Conor versus, how cool would that be
he
to
pulled
watch?
It out. And then,
Dana pulling out names out of a hat.
Yeah, that would be sick. Cool, man. All right, thank you guys for staying tuned and listening to this. We'll just keep them coming. We're enjoying it. It's a great chat. And you guys, thanks for the feedback every week.
Cheers, guys.
Peace.